The List is a new suspense novel from Steve Berry. If you enjoy novels from David Baldacci, John Grisham, and Harlan Coben, The List should be on your reading list. Hi, I'm Dan Skinner, and this is Some Books Considered. Steve Berry is the New York Times and #1 internationally best-selling author of 20 Cotton Malone novels, 5 standalone thrillers, and 2 Luke Daniels adventures, and several works of short fiction. With his wife Elizabeth, he's the founder of History Matters, an organization dedicated to historical preservation, which we'll learn more about later. Steve, welcome to Some Books Considered.
Great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Well, this is a bit of a departure from your usual sort of history-based books. Tell us about what inspired The List.
Well, I was a lawyer in a small Georgia town for 30 years, and late 1980s, I was representing the labor union. We were in an arbitration hearing. It was a really hard-fought kind of thing. And it hit me during the middle of that arbitration hearing. I said, what would happen if the company didn't mess with all this? It messed with all this arbitration and all this stuff. What if they used murder to control their problems? What if they used murder to control their costs? They were self-insured, and they had some particularly expensive medical claims that were going to come from someone. What if they killed them? What if a retiree was going to live for a long time? It was going to cost a lot of money to pay out these pensions. What if they just eliminated them and got rid of them? So was born The List. And I wrote it in 1992. It was the second book I ever wrote in my life, which will tell you that it wasn't really ready for anyone to read. So it went in a drawer. And I would look at it occasionally over the years, but then during COVID, in the lockdown, I got it out and I said, I'm going to rewrite this book. And I rewrote it from start to finish. It got about 15,000 words shorter. I rewrote it. I put it together. I added a little more of a Grisham-like style to the novel. The influence of the firm is clear from this book because I wrote it when the firm was riding high. And Grand Central bought it. Grand Central said, we'll do it. And so this book is a little bit special. It's a lot special to me because it's autobiographical in a lot of ways. A lot of the places and the people I experienced, a lot of the things that Brent Walker does, I did. And so I'm hoping readers are going to love it.
Tell us more about the plot here. Now, Brent Walker is brought in, and he's kind of caught in the middle of all these things. So explain what's going on here.
He doesn't realize it. Yeah, he left town 10 years ago. I set the story in Middle Georgia. So he went to Atlanta. He's come back. His wife died 10 years ago. He left. He's come back to take care of his ailing mother. He gets a job at the paper company. He used to represent the unions when he was there. He now is a company man. What he doesn't realize is that the 3 owners of the company are in conflict with one another, and one of them is dying, and he's had a change of heart. And he's going to reveal all of this. He hates his partners. He's going to bring it all crashing down. He's going to get his partners put in jail. He'll be dead and long gone. And he uses Brent Walker and Hank Reed to do that. And he puts them square in the middle of this war between himself and his 2 partners and the hired killers that they have to implement the cost savings program that's called the Priority Program in the book.
Now, one of the things I took from this book and reading the guy who's decided to turn over a new leaf shortly before he dies is the justification for all of this. You know, they talk about, well, we did this for the greater good. We did this because if we let our company fail, there'd be all these lives that'd be affected in the community. And it made me think of corporations today that, you know, they're not resorting to murder. As far as we know, they're not resorting to that. But they're doing things that are ethically and morally wrong, and they justify it by this greater good, or, you know, that we have to protect the organization.
Yeah, and that's what these guys have rationalized in their head, that by eliminating these claims and cutting these costs and doing all these things, everyone else gets a job. Everyone else gets to survive, but there's no way to rationalize it. It's kind of like when the automobile companies used to decide it was cheaper to pay out claims than it was to recall cars. You know, it was just cheaper to take them as they come and deal with it. This kind of mentality is in there, this corporate bottom line, and they get caught up in it. They begin to believe their own stuff, you know, that they're invincible. But Bosen created all this stuff. Christopher Bosen's the guy who did it all. So he knows how to unravel it. What Brent doesn't know is that there's some surprises waiting for him, things that are going to catch him and the reader off guard as this begins to unravel.
So tell us a bit more about Brent Walker and why you think readers are going to identify with him.
Well, he's a guy with a lot of problems. I mean, he had a wife that he shouldn't have married to start with, but he did, and she takes her own life. It affects him quite profoundly, enough that he closes his law practice, leaves town, goes up to Atlanta, stays a decade. The woman that he loved from high school is there, back in town. She's conflicted as well. I think Walker's a guy you can identify with. I think you can sort of say, yeah, I see what he says. I get that. I say all the time, the best conflict you can have in a novel is the conflict of the human heart. And Brent Walker definitely has a conflict of the human heart going on here. And that's the kind of conflict readers can identify with. He's a good character. He's a good guy. And he gets caught up in this and he has to rise to the occasion. And in the end, he does. But along the way, it's touch and go. It really is.
Well, you mentioned that a lot of elements of this novel are autobiographical. You know the kind of town that this is set in, and you know what it's like to be an attorney in a town like that. So I imagine, it's unlike your historical novels that requires so much history research, but every novel requires research. So how is this novel different in that regard?
Well, the degree of research here was much less, much less, because first off, 95% of it I already knew because I did it. There's a little tinge of history in this book that I put in there that I learned when I was writing The Emperor's Tomb, one of Cotton Malone's novels, that I incorporated into this book just a little bit. But this book was basically was a little bit easier to write because I don't have all those historical elements I have to plug in and make them fit and work. The Cotton Malone books take about 18 months, start to finish. I wrote this original manuscript in about 6 months. I rewrote it in about 3 months. So I had about 9 months total in doing it. And the rewrite was quite extensive. I changed a lot of the style. I changed a lot of the way the story was told, but I didn't change the basic story. The basic story stayed pretty much the same. But it was fun to do this. I'd like to do a few more like this, where I don't have to go get 400 sources and notes that are this tall that I have to try to incorporate and work in. It was a little bit of a joy to produce this one.
I'm talking with Steve Berry about The List, and our conversation continues in a moment. If you're enjoying this discussion, please subscribe, like, and click on the bell so you know when I post new interviews. And thank you. That was one of my questions about Brent Walker. He's an interesting character. Is he going to show up again, or is this just a standalone novel?
Probably a standalone. I don't know if I would. I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, if the book catches legs and goes crazy, who never knows? I mean, Grisham brought back Mitch McDear. 25, 30 years later, he brought him back in a next story. So who knows? You might. I certainly set up to do that. He could have another adventure. He certainly could.
This, as you pointed out, is a novel that you had in the drawer for a long time. So you that story, stayed with you, and eventually you were able to get it published. But not everybody may know, but you had quite the journey to become an author. And you were, pushing your stories, trying to get them published for 12 years before you finally got someone to believe in you. And the rest is history, so to speak.
Yeah, I wrote my first word from the day I wrote my first word that I sold my first word was 12 years. I wrote 8 manuscripts. This was one of them. 5 went to New York houses. This one did not go to New York house. They were rejected 85 times. Now, eventually, of those 8 novels, 6 of those have been published, which is pretty cool that 6 of them made it. The other one, there's one more. The first one I ever wrote could be rewritten. It's a really good story, but it is really told bad. It's really badly told. But I could rewrite it. I could fix it. The other one I pretty much chopped up and used in a variety of different books along the way. I'd say of those 8 books, 95% of the words, 7 books. Forget the first one. The 7 books, 95% of the words made it to print, which is a testament to do not throw your stuff away.
So, based on your experience, what other advice would you have for aspiring authors?
They have to write. You have to write every day. You have to keep writing and you have to keep going. If you get rejected, you get told no, that's fine. Put it aside, write another story. That one gets rejected, put it aside, write another story. You have to keep going because if you will, one day, Lady Luck's going to say, today's the day. You've had a lot of problems, but today is your day. And for me, that happened in the spring of 2002. It was my day where finally I was in the right place at the right time with the right story. And, the Amber Room, which was the fourth manuscript I ever wrote, got bought.
So I hear persistence is one of those lessons, believing in yourself, and also learning experiences, because each time you write a new story, you learn things, and hopefully you become a better writer.
Absolutely. That's what's happened here. I applied 28 years of what I'd learned to rewrite the novel. So if readers think, well, you just pulled this out of the drawer, sent it off, and published it. No, that's not the way it worked. I rewrote it start to finish in a whole overhaul. With a writer, all you can hope for is what you write today is a little bit better than what you wrote yesterday, and what you write tomorrow is a little bit better than today. That's all you can ever hope for. You never get good at it. You never get perfect at it. You just get a little bit better every day in what you're doing.
Well, there's a question I like to ask authors of fiction, and it's this. If you could spend a day in real life with one of the characters from this novel, who would it be and why?
Ooh, that's an interesting story. I guess it'd be Hank Reed because he's based on my good friend Larry Daly, and I always enjoyed spending time with him. I just saw him a few days ago and brought him the book. He didn't know the book was being published, so I surprised him. So I guess it would be him. I'd like to be with Hank, and Larry and I spent a long time together. We since I moved away now, and for the last 15 years I've lived somewhere else. But I would probably say Hank. Hank and I had some good times together.
Did he recognize that you had modeled that character after him?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I told him, I said, basically, when you read the story, you're going to recognize a whole lot. Me and him are going to recognize a whole lot, that we did personally ourselves. We did. So, I made it. I normally don't base a character on a real person. I did it with Danny Daniels in the Cotton Malone series because that's a real guy in Camden County. He was our fire chief. This is the second example where I've done it. Hank Reed is Larry Daly. He basically is, and he was thrilled about it. He's 89 years old, and he loved it. He brought a great smile to his face.
Well, what's next for you?
Cotton Malone comes back in February with a really good story. It's called The Devil's Bible, which is a real book. It's the largest book in the world. It sits in the National Library in Stockholm, Sweden. And Cotton Malone gets caught up in an adventure with the Devil's Bible. Russia, the Czech Republic, Sweden, and the United States all want the Bible, but for totally different reasons. So that's coming. And then Luke Daniels will be back in 27 with another adventure.
Steve, before I let you go, tell us about History Matters and the work that you and your wife do through it.
We go to communities and help raise money for historic preservation. We've done buildings, documents, books, posters, libraries, museums, cemeteries. We've raised money for all those things. About 85 projects, about $4 million we've raised. If anyone has a project, they can go to my website, steveberry.org, click on History Matters, send me an email. We'll see if we can come help you out. We don't do as many as we used to. We're selective in what we do now, but you may have a project that we can help you with. And you can also find out about the list and all my other books at steveberry.org too.
This suspense novel is The List by Steve Berry. Steve, thank you for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me.
If you'd like to purchase The List, I've placed a link for you in the description below. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and click on the bell so you know when I post new interviews. Meanwhile, here are 2 more books you might find interesting. I'm Dan Scunner. Thank you for watching this edition of Some Books Considered.